Have you been hanging and banging, brothers and sisters? Have you been in the gym, pumping that iron, and getting yourself in top shape? If so, you need to fuel your body, and nobody can do it better for you at a better price and a better quality product than our friends at Best Price Nutrition. That's bestpricenutrition.com. 1-800-499-4810. They got free shipping on orders over $99 in the USA. They even have a 30-day return policy. Ladies and gentlemen, Best Price Nutrition is where it's at. Are you looking to advertise your small business? Then look no further. The PowerCast Network has over 12,000 hits per day to our channel. We have packages starting out at just $1 per day. That's right, you can advertise to an audience of over 12,000 each day for only $1. Give us a call at 815-290-9087 or drop me a line at info@braddrake.net. Welcome back, everybody, to the 1987 Supermod. And remember, this is the Christmas series. That's right, AWA and WWF all month long. And this episode is a special episode where I'm going to bring you up to speed on the edits that I had to make in the game from when I originally started. For those of you that have been watching my channel for long enough, which is coming up on a year next month, you will see that I have made these mistakes previously in other saves, particularly Florida, where I started running the shows and then realized I had a lot wrong. So I had the same thing going on in this game, so I just wanted to run you through things and show you what I had wrong. So the first thing was I took Superstars into a B show. That was wrong. I should not have done that. The biggest reason that I should not have done that was the fact that that has the highest reach in television because it is a syndicated television show. So I made sure to change that back to an A show. Okay? So the formula I have found to be successful in TEW. And again, unfortunately, it's not totally realistic, but it is the formula that you have to follow if you're going to do squash matches. This is the exact same way I had to run my Jim Crockett Promotions save a few years back, which obviously was not on the channel or anything like that, and frankly isn't too far off from what Superstars was. So what you do is you do a legit main event, right? And that saves the rest of the show. You're probably wondering how and why does that save the end of the show? Well, I'm going to show you. If you go into your product, okay, and you go to Match Focus Main Event Spotlight, you're going to get your most gains based off the score of that main event. Now, you don't necessarily want this to be on during shows, and you can change this as much times as you want, but it does help. And it's going to make a profound difference when you run shows like I just set up for Superstars. It's the same thing with angle focus. With the tight focus, it's going to give you an 80% score of your best angle based on your at best angle. 20% is going to make up the rest of the angles. So for these shows, we have a bunch of poor, not the greatest promos. Like Billy Jack Haynes is a poor promo, right? Nikolai Volkov isn't the greatest of promos. The new Dream Team isn't the greatest of promos. So if you do it like this, it's going to secure you the highest scores. What I had to do here, everybody, was if I had been recorded all the way up to, you can see all these shows, right? I was recorded all the way up to the second taping of Spotlight. All right. I had to create a whole new save and run every one of these shows again up until the second taping of Spotlight and then finish it out that way. So this took me days, okay? So I had to make a bunch of edits and a bunch of updates to the game. So the first one was Superstars. I had to get the timing right. And then, of course, I had to get the timing right with Primetime Wrestling. So another thing I learned is the other shows, the B shows, I cut those down to a half hour. They were technically 45-minute film because 15 minutes was left for commercials. So I cut them down to a half hour to make them more manageable. Okay, so Superstars of Wrestling here is a 1 hour show, right? Primetime Wrestling is an hour and a half show. If you look through Wikipedia and stuff like that, they have Primetime Wrestling listed as a 2 hour show, weekly show. If you look at the footage collected up on YouTube, they are anywhere from an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and 45 minutes. So that indicates that it could be an hour and a half show or it could be a 2 hour show, depending on what week it was. I was a very young kid when I used to watch Primetime Wrestling. I can't remember how long of a show it was. Wikipedia says it's a 2 hour show, and then that's what I found on YouTube. So to make things fair, I just made it into an hour and a half show, okay? Now, Wrestling Challenge. This is an interesting one. We all know Wrestling Challenge was a B show, okay? This is one of the ones I cut down to a half hour. Now, I learned something about Wrestling Challenge. When the WWF bought out the Tunnies Maple Leaf Wrestling in Toronto in 1984, they took over the Maple Leaf Wrestling time slot. The WWF actually ran a show as Maple Leaf Wrestling. In the early 1980s and probably earlier in Canada, you could only run filmed footage in Canada that was a certain amount of film footage in Canada that was filmed in Canada. So the WWF bought out the Tunnies and then used their time slot and recorded footage for Maple Leaf Wrestling during their shows in Ontario and Toronto specifically. So the footage on Wrestling Challenge was actually from Maple Leaf Gardens or one of the other Ontario venues. That's how it was done. Now, by 1987, that rule didn't apply anymore, and they actually folded Maple Leaf Wrestling and just had the syndicated shows going on up there in Canada. This is also true with the AWA. The AWA had Major League Wrestling that was filmed in Winnipeg only for Canada, distributed syndication in Canada. And we know by 1987, Major League Wrestling was no longer around for the AWA. So that's a little bit of back history on Wrestling Challenge. So Wrestling Challenge, All American Wrestling, and Wrestling Spotlight have all been cut down to half-hour shows. Now, I'm going to keep getting better, and I'm going to keep doing this better. And I am going to start watching more shows to get more of the segments, proper segments down to run in our actual TV shows, even though we're not going to be there for some time in the save. But I will get better, and I will get this down to be more accurate. The same goes for the Boston Garden shows, the Spectrum shows, the Madison Square Garden shows. It looks like it was that same formula that I have here of match, promo, match, promo. The segments are accurate, everything. So that's how I'm going to do it, everybody. And that's how we're going to make things happen. Now, let's take a look at the roster. I made some errors that I got fixed up, okay? I got the wrong color for Bundy here. It's driving me nuts. I know. Feel free to make fun of me further for my OCD type activities. I totally understand. Sam Houston was already signed to the WWF. He was just getting ready to make his debut. He had left the UWF already. We did not have him on there before. We did not have King Kong Bundy out. King Kong Bundy had taken some time off, so we made sure to redo the save, redo the database, and have him where he's going to be off. So those were important, and I got that straightened out. So the other thing was we added ladies wrestler, Candice Pardue. She was still around at that point. We added her. And I'm going to give you some other tips here, everybody, if you're going to play this save that I did right away when redoing it, okay? Sign a bunch more enhancement talent. You need 50 plus people for enhancement. Otherwise, they're going to get tired on you. Okay, so that's the first thing I did. And what I did is I went through and I found guys that were actually WWF enhancement talents, not necessarily in May of 1987, but were enhancement talents for the WWF at one point, or older wrestlers who had once been in the WWF that we can use as enhancement talent. Makes perfect sense. For example, Frank Monty is one of those guys. Now, you'll see here where it says semi-enhancement. Guys like Iron Mike Sharp, Jose Estrada, SD Jones, Tony Garea, yeah, they did enhancement matches on television, absolutely they did. But these guys were also used in house shows and wrestled against each other and wrestled against other people on the circuit. So I put them in there for that. You can see I brought back Johnny Rods. Johnny Rods and Jose Estrada were actually the Super Medicos in Puerto Rico for years. An excellent tag team. So this is a pretty good team to use to help with other teams. I'm most likely going to put them in there against the Young Stallions, who aren't in a feud but are going to be on the circuit. It also brought back an old favorite like Baron Mikel Scicluna. He's older at this point, but he's still serviceable. We can use him on house shows on top of taking falls on television for us. So build up your enhancement talents. You're going to need it. As you can see, we brought back Bob Bradley here, who was doing jobs in 86 and then was brought back again later in 88, 89. Brady Boone was brought back. He was doing jobs in 86. We brought him back. So as many, and I recommend having 50 enhancement talents because you're going to need it to carry the load for this amount of TV shows, especially right off the bat. Okay. The other thing I want to point out that I quickly was able to fix that was originally not set up this way. Bobby Heenan would still do an occasional six-man match. For those of you that remember, he tagged with the Islanders against the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware in the special weasel suit. He wore that, he didn't wear the weasel suit. He wore that dog-proof jacket. So Bobby Heenan still would take the occasional match. And so would, and I didn't put him down here, and I should have, Pat Patterson. Pat Patterson would still take the occasional match. Johnny V was not wrestling often, but Johnny V was still wrestling, and so was Mr. Fuji. Mr. Fuji was still doing a bunch of six-man tags with Demolition on house shows and stuff like that. So I went through and re-edited them and made sure that all of them could be used because it's realistic. Now, in the game I'm playing, I forgot to do Bobby Heenan, so I'm not going to be able to use Bobby Heenan. But from startup and for when version 10 comes out, you will be able to use Bobby Heenan. So these are the big changes, everybody. These are the big things I learned the hard way, and that's how you learn, unfortunately, with TEW 2020, is the hard way. I spent a ton of time here redoing all these shows, replaying all of this, to get caught back up to the second tapings of Spotlight here. So we're ready to go. I'm ready to go. Our next TV taping here is going to be on NESN, and we're ready to rock for NESN. So that's about it, everybody. I just wanted to show this off to you, show you the changes that were made, how we got things more realistic. There's a more accurate picture for Baron Mikel Scicluna. I got a more accurate picture for Jose Estrada. Not that the last picture was inaccurate, just looked kind of funny. So we got a proper picture for Jose Estrada. You know, this is how it goes. I'm going to keep doing better, everybody. We're going to keep trying to make this as realistic as possible under the confines of TEW 2020. And I'm going to keep moving on here, everybody, and having some fun with this. This World Wrestling Federation Save seems to be a really big hit, and everybody seems to really enjoy it. So I'm going to keep doing it, at least for the month of December here. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. I just wanted to go over this with all of you. For those of you that are new to the channel, and there are a lot of you, please hit that subscribe button and leave me a message below. Let me know what you think of the save and what brought you here. How did you find us? Also, if you would like version 9 of the Super Mod, you can head on over to braddrake.net. Drop me a line. I'll be more than happy to send you a link to the database and the picture pack. And last but not least, Check us out on social media, facebook.com/groups/1987supermod. You can also find us on Reddit under the subreddit of TEW 2020 Friends. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Plenty more to come. It's been exciting. Thanks. We'll see you tomorrow.